We went from what's a podcast in 2020 to now I have to start a podcast. I always ask when people come to me and ask, they're talking about their podcast. I want to start a podcast. I always ask them, why?
Yeah.
What's the point? So
Yeah.
if you're a brand listening it and you want really a good ROI on your investment, it's that. Because almost everybody in the market, and they say around 87% of listeners of podcasts trust a brand that is hosted on a podcast and directly convert. Listening is so important. People think, I can speak. I'm a great speaker. I can do this. But, it's good to speak, but you need to listen. I don't believe in the subscription for podcasts. I will always believe. RSS is based on open source. It should be always for free.
Hi, Lama Masri.
Hi, Ibrahim.
How are you? How's it going?
Alhamdulillah, very good. How are you?
Fantastic. Alhamdulillah. I
know.
need to say that more often.
Right.
Welcome to Below the Fold podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, pleasure is mine. So we've known each other since university. We've connected again recently, and our paths kind of intersect, right? I'm a podcast founder and host, and you are the queen of podcasting, right? And I'm sure you definitely live up to the expectations. But before we get into podcasts and that space, I want to know more about your background, the early stages of your career, whatever you can share that can, I guess, inform the audience on what brought you here today.
Sure thing. First off, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people that know me know that Lama is really great at like this idea matchmaking. And, you tell me you're thinking of something, or you want to build something, or even you want to hire somebody, and I'm able to kind of connect you. So this passion of connecting people has always been there from an early on stage in my career. But beyond that is this passion for building. So I've now built my fourth startup, and
Impressive.
thank you. But it's like I really love building something from zero to
To hero.
and to hero, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something of a passion. From like I've studied international affairs with a minor economics. I've done a master's in media communication, and then I went on and became a full stack web developer. So like this entire kind of med tech, in a way, global view that I like to kind of approach. But I've ventured into lots of different fields, even from at one point education.
Yeah.
So I've really done too much.
Right. And when it comes to podcasting
Yeah.
and podcasts, you've been in the space for quite a while, right?
Yeah, 5 years now.
5 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't recall if podcasts was a thing in Dubai 5 years ago. I guess it was starting to pick up 5 years ago, would you say?
Yeah, in 2020 you had around 1,500 Arab podcasters in the Middle East already, and then those 1,000 really were, still, mainly audio, obviously, and still very like, testing the mics, maybe probably obviously not monetizing yet, but it was still very early on.
Yeah.
Now you have around 175,000
Wow.
podcasters. So that merge and increase of the region is insane.
That's like 100x.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. And so what was your first sort of assignment or job in podcasts?
So I was so after the blast happened in Lebanon back in 2020, like all of the world's like, okay, what do I do now? What's next? How do I start over? All of that. I kind of gave up because I put my CV to a headhunter, and luckily I said, you know what? I'm not finding anything. Let me just try this alleyway. And I was headhunted for Podio. And Podio, as you know, is it was and only is right now the only Middle Eastern hosting dashboard. And now they have ad tech and they have a listening app. So I joined them almost as like number 5 hire. Helped them grow. I was VP strategy and partnerships. Worked very closely with Stefano and the founding team, and really helped them grow I felt like I was very much, the face of the brand here in the middle in Dubai. Help elevate the brand, took them to workshops, did quite a lot, and helped them. So that growth was really through partnerships with media houses, partnerships with brands, partnerships with different workshops on educating not just brands but also the industry and content creators how to start a podcast. Why should you start a podcast? What's the purpose of podcasts? Is it a marketing asset? Is it an extension? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So really, all of that, we went from what's a podcast in 2020 to now I have to start a podcast.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that shift, it
sounds
was,
like you were the team behind this 100x.
yeah.
Can't recall another organization that spent time educating,
Yeah.
I guess, people on podcasting.
Back then, you had Fanyal Media as a production house.
Right.
You had Kerning Cultures that had really high quality fictional podcasts. Obviously, Rising Giant Networks, and you saw these content houses that probably were replicating the model of Wandery, and all the likes of the fictional productions of podcasts that you see in the West that work in the West, but maybe they just did not. That the region was not ready for them.
Yeah.
They were not ready to monetize on these platforms because no one was spending on audio budgets.
Right. Right. What's the Wondery format or model?
So really just creating subscription, I'm
Yeah.
dyslexic, sorry, subscription like
Yeah.
content.
Yeah.
And from that, people were you're subscribing to the content, or at least you're getting a programmatic advertisement with higher CPM that to be served on those podcasts. So,
Right. Okay.
the
Okay.
rev share the revenue model was established.
Yeah. 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 Well, obviously, podcast is not a mass media, is it though? In the region, but there's a lot of value in advertising in podcasts,
Of course.
right? It's not a big massive audience like social media, for example, but it's a premium audience. People are dialed in, and we'll talk about podcast advertising in a few. But so after Podio, you went ahead and co-founded Podheros, correct?
That's true. That's true. So I was approached by Vuk, and Vuk is the co-founder of Podster, which is a podcasting studio here
Right.
in the Middle East. And
Another success story in podcasts, also.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Vuk has done a great job. Super proud of him, and he's kind of had this holding of they're trying to really produce and create different products that serve the podcasting industry. So from a booking software studio called Podex to even like an actual booking studio finder to so many different platforms that they're kind of serving.
Yeah.
And so he approached. He's like, "We've had this idea. Join us as a co-founder." And so I started in end of Feb. We went live in May, and we've been building it and trying to prove the model. And this is where we've reached a point where we've done really well, but we've realized Lama's getting the most of the bookings.
Yeah.
And so then you have to realize, is this more of my personal brand that maybe I have to step out and become my own entity? And maybe not every, let's say, marketplace needs to be its own business. It can be then just a feature as part of a other company.
Right.
So that's kind of right now where we've taken it. We're saying, all right, let's see it more as an add-on feature into the entire workflow.
Right.
And I like that we've been able, all right, we've proven the model in a way that works as a feature more, because then we're catching the actual buyer of the service automatically within that workflow.
Right. Right. So,
so-
and this is how you brought a marketplace,
Yeah.
right, to life.
Yes.
Could you explain a little bit why is it called a marketplace? Is it a marketplace for
Sure.
advertisers, or is it a marketplace for podcasters?
So it's neither. It's a marketplace for podcast experts. So it's the people who are behind the scenes that have built the best podcasts globally. They're the people who are monetizing the best podcasts. So whatever advice you wanted from either the pre-production phase or the production phase, or figuring out what cameras or what mics do I need to set up a podcasting studio, whether you want to do one in-house or at the office, you get to book a 1 hour session with an expert. So I went on and vetted the top, the top 40 right now globally, and from the US, from MENA, and adding on to the APAC as well experts. And it's beautiful to see, we got featured. I remember the second we went live, we got featured by Pod News by James, and this is like the Vogue, right?
Right.
The Forbes, of podcasting, and it was great because automatically after that, we had around 250 podcast experts on a waiting list ready to join us.
Wow. Okay. Ready to offer their services
Exactly.
to parties that want to produce podcast content,
Exactly.
right? And who would
Exactly.
you say is your top target audience? Is it podcasters? Is it regular people? Well, not regular people, right? They're podcasters, so they're special, right? Is it future podcasters, or is it businesses or brands that want to venture into podcasting?
All, all.
All
So
of it.
I do believe more in the B2B funnel, because then you can lock certain hours with them. And let's say you can guarantee, let's say for different agencies, you say, all right, for all your different clients, let's lock per year 50 hours. And I'm going to give you several experts you have access to, book them whenever you need, whenever a client needs. So that is more scalable rather than leaving it on the B2C consumer, because then you're thinking of these digital advertisements that are going to cost you a lot to acquire. So it's going to cost you more because the model was, a rev share. That, every expert gets to price it the way he wanted. So again, a question mark. How do you then build legacies with these brands? And what we realize is that the legacies and the networks already exist under, let's say, Podex. They exist under Podster. So embed it, have it as a service, because think of it as like a consulting plus one,
Right. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the podcast landscape
Yeah.
in MENA. So you said earlier that it has 100x'd in the past 5 years, right?
Correct.
What would you say this? So you said 117K,
175,000.
175,000. That's almost actually 200x.
Yeah.
Uh,
So before you ask the question, let me give
Yeah.
at least the audience a bit of insight. So globally, you have around 4.3 million podcasts worldwide in all languages, English, Arabic, Spanish, globally.
Right.
But you have less than 387,000 podcasters that are active and have more than 10 episodes.
Okay. And have more than 10 episodes. All right. So this 175 that's coming from MENA, these active.
Not 100%.
All right.
So
Okay.
you could take it in a lot of people have started,
Right.
but what I've noticed from last year to this year, because I always look at these numbers and I track them, and from so we're in October.
Yeah.
From last year, we had 440,000 active podcasters with 10
Right.
more episodes.
Right.
We're now
Right.
at around 330. So that's 110,000 active podcasters that are no longer active.
Right. Right. Right.
So there's a big question mark there. What happened?
Yeah. Yeah. But also to look at how the region here is playing a role on a global scale. So you said 4 million on a global scale,
Correct.
right? Worldwide existing podcasts, and about 200,000 from the region, right? Which means that 5% of all
content.
podcasts globally come from the region.
Correct.
Does that mean that MENA is a big contributor when it comes to podcasting, or a big player in that space?
I mean, it's getting there,
Right.
right? And we're still catching up. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of what we're doing is either we're replicating the model that is already existing abroad and thinking, because there's so many different types of podcasting, all right? This is the standard one that everybody thinks this is a podcast.
Yeah.
But you've got solo podcasts.
Yeah.
You've got podcasts with a round table,
Right.
You've got podcasts that are, investigative podcasts that are,
Yeah.
fictional.
Right.
So many different styles, or the
Yeah.
scripted podcasts.
Thrillers.
Yeah,
Right.
usually those are scripted podcasts,
Yeah.
and so there's so many different styles. People haven't yet tapped into it, probably because they haven't figured out maybe how to make it worthwhile, how to turn that ROI.
Right.
And that's something I'd love to kind of share with your audience, to
Yeah.
to really dive into how do I monetize from a podcast
Right.
beyond just advertising.
Yeah.
What else can we do?
Yeah, I heard someone say at the Podfest festival, not this year's edition, last year's edition, say that one of the reasons why the Middle East or the MENA podcast space is not growing as fast as it should is because we're not really adapting these different formats of podcasts. We're kind of stuck in this interview style podcast format, as opposed to diversifying the content, bringing in, like you said,
Different formats.
different formats, thrillers, inspirational content, mental health content. Like we see in the US, there's a lot of different formats and types of content.
You have, though. I've seen a lot from the
Right.
region, honestly. You have a lot of players, but I always ask when people come to me and ask, they're talking about their podcast. I want to start a podcast. I always ask them, why?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Right.
What's after it? Okay, you've built your personal brand. Are you trying to, let's look at Beyond the Fold.
Yeah.
Does Beyond the Fold want at one point...
Below the fold.
Sorry. Below the fold. Again, very dyslexic.
Yeah.
So below the fold.
Yeah.
Am I looking at merchandising?
Yeah.
Am I looking at creating at one point my own agency and I become the expert of it? Am I looking at offering courses on marketing that people maybe can go online and subscribe to? Do I want maybe to launch a book called Below the Fold?
Yeah.
What is the vision? What is the why for me to monetize this beyond just the traditional, hi guys, this episode is sponsored by X, right?
Yeah.
Beyond just getting the host read, because programmatic is going to come in and it's slowly going to adapt, but there's so many other ways to actually monetize
Yeah.
beyond your personal brand.
Let's talk about monetization.
Sure.
Let's talk about what are those ways, to monetize your podcast, and would love to talk about programmatic in specific.
Sure.
But I'll let you lead. Take us through this list. I guess it's a list. There's probably more than one way, right?
Of course. So let's go a bit from a history lesson, right?
Yeah.
So when we first got in with Podio, I remember, curling cultures were the leaders in terms of fictional podcasts and branded podcasts, and they're doing really high quality productions. Their CPM, the cost per milli, so it's cost per 1,000, was $50. So if they guaranteed 1,000 listens on their content, they're getting
$50.
exactly.
Yeah.
So this was really high.
Right.
So now you're looking at also tier A content that are getting around, let's say, $18,
Right.
right? For 1,000 listens.
Yeah.
So at least the CPM, because there's much more competition, much more content that is coming out, that's shifted. So
Right.
obviously from a programmatic ones, you have Next Broadcast Media, who usually you can host on Simplecast or other hosting dashboard, and you can link up with them, and they basically they connect to different DSPs,
Yeah.
demand side platforms, to kind of tap into the supply side platform. So it's into the supply side, which means all the different creators are hosted. They tap into the connect to them, and obviously, I know some of the text that they use. And they bring it all together. They're doing really well. I'm very proud of Lamia and Adel, and they're joined by Patrick Smeha, who's helping them, and Claudius, who's ex-Spotify.
Yeah.
Great team.
Yeah.
On the other end, you've got Podio as well. Podio's USP is not just advertising, but it's also distribution.
Right.
So they've gone beyond listening apps distribution, but airline, a Nuvo deal.
Yeah.
They've gone IMO deal, which is the WhatsApping,
Yeah.
the WhatsApp kind of messaging app.
Yeah.
They've gone Jawakir, you're gaming, and then you tap into a podcast. So these let's say, ads that are served on the RSS is going to be played wherever it goes.
Right.
So those are the types of different ways from a programmatic perspective where content is being delivered.
Right. And this is where you get paid for every 1,000 listens, right?
Exactly.
But you need to have volume,
True.
correct? What
True.
happens if you don't have volume? What if your podcast is very niche? All right.
And then you can, let's say, put your CPM higher. So I
Right.
remember there was once this cardiologist podcaster, and her listeners were getting around 250 listens per month.
Yeah.
So for her, for the market industry, that's a bit low. But because she was getting, let's say, around 250 from the medical field, who were also other doctors, she could charge much more. She
Right,
could
right.
charge if she wanted $1,000 CPM for not even 1,000,
Yeah.
around 200 listens.
Yeah.
But then her approach was different because I'm giving that quality, kind of like a
Right.
close circle of experts.
Extremely niche and expert advice.
Exactly.
Obviously people pay a lot of money for cardiologists.
Oh, exactly.
You might as well, I guess they are entitled, right,
Of
to
course.
set a high CPM. Um, what about brand sponsorships? What do you feel about, brand sponsorships?
As in programmatically or like baked into the content?
No. So baked into the
Post-read?
content. So like direct type partnerships, not necessarily through ad tech or through programmatic, but it's just something that I guess the advertiser and the podcaster agree on. It could be a host read, for example, or it could be like an in content type product placement.
Yeah.
Or it could be like a pre-roll that is very much like a programmatic ad, but
Yeah.
it's I guess it's like a premium pre-roll, right? Because it's sort of a guaranteed buy
Yeah.
for the advertiser because the podcaster chooses to add these pre-roll ads on certain episodes.
For me, I value it more. So
Yeah.
if you're a brand listening it and you want really a good ROI on your investment, it's that because almost everybody in the market, and they say around 87% of listeners of podcast trust a brand that is hosted on a podcast and directly convert. So it's
Right.
that immediate recommendation.
Yeah.
There's that brand affiliation. So if you and you talk about and you're mentioning anything like a marketing ad tech tool that people can use and start analyzing analytics, right? Because you're an expert of your field and what you're talking about at Below the Fold, your listeners are going to subscribe to it. So if you start having a promo code, people are like, okay, you know what? I'm going to use that. I'm going to try it because I trust it, right?
Right.
So there is that leverage that you're almost guaranteeing these demo users, these conversion and these very high conversion rates. So I definitely recommend it. I think there's much more buck for the creator as well in it. And if people can either do it per season or they bundle them from an episodic if you're covering certain things or per episode.
Yeah.
To each his style.
Yeah, I feel like when there's a connection between the podcaster and the brand advertising, when it comes directly from the podcaster, when the podcaster is sort of bragging about the sponsorship, right? In a way, the audience would appreciate it more because they would feel like this brand is helping my favorite podcaster or the podcaster I'm listening to continue financing the show, right? It's helping his community as well. It's creating, it's sort of, supporting, this community, or I guess this, the existence of the podcast, right? Ultimately. And I feel like today, with the volumes that podcasters are able to deliver, perhaps brand sponsorships is making more sense. Correct me if I'm wrong in the region. But however, I don't know if you agree or no, but I feel like it's not just about monetization, uh, or is it what's holding up, or what's holding back? Sorry, the podcast space to grow in the region, right? Is it the lack of investment that you think is a blocker for more podcasters to jump in or for their numbers to grow? Or is it something else? Is it maybe, like we said earlier, the content, right, that they need to create?
I think what people need to separate, am I building a podcast as a form of IP, or am I building a podcast as an add-on to a business?
Yeah.
So if you are, let's say, a life coach, right, and you're using this podcast maybe to showcase your listeners on how you would, go about life coaching, then you should offer a service, right? And basically have a website where you're redirecting, or on your Insta or whatever social media platform you're using, and then people can book sessions with you. Your podcast is a form of advertising, it's a form
Yeah.
of marketing. And that's what it really is. So unless you're building, you're not going to be monetizing on top of that. You are building it as an IP. Then that content, where am I taking it? Am I going to distribute it then at one point, similar to like AB Talks, right? He's taking the content and putting it on OSN and, on Netflix,
Yeah.
and it's becoming an IP licensed production where you start monetizing from that angle.
Right.
So it really just depends always on the why. And the big problem in the region is that nobody's figured out the why.
Right.
They just automatically think, let me just start a podcast, and I can't find an advert. I can't find somebody to advertise, why? And they're blocking and then they're stopping. But if they were to answer that why and really put a plan and say, you know what, I'd like to start sales courses as well. I'd like to launch a book. I'd like to build, and start maybe my own agency. And then my personal brand helps that succeed.
Right. Right.
So they cannot put so much weight on the podcast on its own.
Yeah. Yeah. But I guess there are outliers out there, like Anas Bukhash,
Yeah.
right, that are able to sort of rely on the podcast itself, and sort of I guess benefit from the value of that IP.
But he had the studio,
Yeah.
right? So he had Pushnak Brothers,
Yeah.
and he had a studio that he could utilize and create content with. In-house team, in-house agency team, marketing team, a social media team. So did Hikmat Wahbe, right?
Yeah.
Hikmat Wahbe's podcast is also being streamed on a streaming platform.
Right.
And that's also another success for. So is Luca, right? Luca actually ended up building it his own, got also a team to build it with his wife, who has her own agency as well. So it's this kind of figuring out what you're building and what's the purpose. Like Luca's building it for, let's say, coaching purposes. He's doing leadership courses for different media agencies. Him and Hikmat now they started their own company as well, which is a network.
Yeah.
And they're trying to bring everybody, on a podcast network so that they can monetize as well.
Yeah.
So it's really what's the why?
Yeah,
Always go back
yeah.
to the why. What am I kind of building? Am I building the IP to go where with it?
That's very cool, actually. I guess, yes, monetization doesn't stop at the podcast itself. So there are other ways to monetize. And also, like, when you look at Anas Bukhash, and you look at Luca, and you look at Hikmat,
Yes.
right? It's content, and you try to find what's in common between these three. It's really, really good, high quality content.
True.
Right. And I feel like, I guess if someone or a podcaster wants to grow their numbers, and you see, what podcasts are successful at that, I guess it's the quality of the content, right? It's very high quality content, great guests, right? How important are the guests?
They are, but it's you as a host, you bring out the best out of everybody.
Right.
And it's how you're comfortable with yourself, how you make your guest comfortable, how you're able to listen. Listening is so important. People think, I can speak, I'm a great speaker, I can do this. But, it's good to speak, but you need to listen, actually. That's what you need to work on. Do you know how to give the other person the space enough to to share that story, you know,
Right.
and share that knowledge. So it's mastering that art. So definitely I see three of them mastering that art, which is how to listen, how to ask the right questions, how to pivot between questions if they've already answered it, rather than always, you know, following a teleprompter or a certain guide, right? So that is something, you know, that definitely they've mastered.
There you go. Although there's nothing wrong with following a teleprompter.
I'm not
That's
saying they
completely
do.
fine.
No, no, I'm saying, but if somebody answers a question and you have the question keep on coming, you're like,
Right.
and then you sometimes people panic, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
no, you've already answered that. So knowing how to jump through that, that's what I meant.
Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah.
What role do you see? Do you think the digital streaming platforms play a role in? So I'm talking about the Spotify, the Anghami, Apple Podcast, SoundClouds of the world, right? These obviously play a big role. Yeah. Coming to think of it, are they doing enough to advertise themselves, market their apps, right? Grow that audience, get more people to listen to podcasts. What roles do they play? Do you think, or what is it that they're not doing enough of? Or maybe they're doing a great job. I don't know.
I mean, listening, look, it's a bit tricky with listening apps because you've got, so obviously Spotify's focus on podcasting has mainly been US.
Yeah.
That's why programmatically advertising, when they purchased Anchor and now it's just Spotify for podcasters, the monetization element only exists in the US. And so when people want to come and let's say host on Spotify, they're not being able to take advantage of that. So if Spotify were to say, look at this region and say like, I need to pay attention to this region and how much ad spend there is on it, let me open the ad tech there.
Yeah.
That's one option. Another thing that everybody's having an issue with is probably discoverability. And Anghami did a thing where you can pay to get discovered, right?
Yeah.
You can get paid to be top featured.
Yep.
With Podio, obviously it's for free. When you're hosted, they will feature you. If you're not hosted, you won't get featured there. Apple does a great job.
Yeah.
Rami and his team, they have that, form. I like they have an Airtable link. You plug in your information and you get featured.
Yeah, and to
So-
be fair, also for Apple
Yeah.
and Rami, they did organize a get together actually about a week ago.
True. Right after the
the
day
Podfest.
after day
Yes.
after Podfest. Yeah.
Yes, and so they brought us all together. They took us through some best practices on how to improve your presence on the platform, and also they also announced a couple updates that were very interesting. So they're definitely doing a good job, a great job.
So
yeah.
what updates are they? Are you gonna share?
Well,
them
one of the
out?
updates
Yeah, I like
is
that.
is that now.
Sponsored by Apple.
Well, not yet.
I know.
They're gonna have like a full. You can now upload a full screen artwork for
Okay.
your profile, so it doesn't just. It's not just I guess limited to the square
Okay.
on when you open your show
So
on the
it'll
app.
be all the
Yeah,
background.
it's the full screen, the entire
Nice.
screen. So it's much more immersive. We spoke about subscriptions. Also, as a podcaster, you can now charge a subscription if you want users to listen in without hearing
yeah.
ads. So this is a great way to monetize.
Yeah.
Or if you want them to access exclusive content
Yeah.
as well, which is great.
I know.
It was great to hear. It was very exciting.
Yeah.
Goes to show how much we're monetizing.
Yeah.
Right. But-
Rami always talked about that. I know that this is Anghami's play and this is Spotify's play, but really learning this industry and seeing the evolution of podcasting throughout all these years, beyond the 5 years, but really how the West is doing. I don't believe in the subscription for
Yeah.
podcasts. I will always believe. I mean, RSS is based on open source. It should be always for free. So just podcasters just have to figure out how to monetize from another angle. I don't mind seeing an
Yeah.
ad to when I'm listening to a podcast. I
yeah.
really don't.
Yeah, just
They-
like YouTube, I suppose. I'll never
Yeah.
pay for YouTube. Premium. I don't
And
know.
it's just I think what they just need to perfect is to have kind of, they're called like ad stoppers, where like, okay, now what during your content as you're recording your podcast, there should be a way where the conversation is not automatically interrupted. So there should be a way where we master saying, okay, we'll be back after this short ad break, right?
Yeah.
Which obviously radio professionals do and TV hosts
Yes.
are masters of.
Hmm.
So just that needs to be kind of improved,
Right.
definitely,
Yeah.
to serve programmatically
That's a
better.
great point.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a little bit, and I wanna touch on a couple on these points before we wrap up. How important is the growth of Arabic language podcast? Is podcast in Arabic more important in the region than a podcast in English? Would you say?
Yes, of course. Local is better, and gets more numbers. There was a production I worked on almost 2 years ago, and it was a full fledged, high agency, huge marketing budget, like crazy team. PR agency, advertising agency, everybody was involved, and high caliber guests and all of that. And it was in English. We did a similar one with government agencies, and again, high caliber, everything's replicated, 3 times the numbers.
Wow.
3 times.
Well, I'm feeling FOMO now. I'm
You
missing
know,
out. Yeah.
no, I mean, look, you are addressing, the wider region, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people that are in advertising, probably that work here, are not all,
Arabic
Arabic
speakers.
speakers.
Yeah.
So I think for your niche that you're covering, it's great. I mean, you could always add subtitles. I'm not sure if you do or not, but that could
I
be one
should.
way,
Yeah.
one way where you take advantage of that,
Right.
or when there's live translation, which is coming right from
Right.
YouTube. So.
Right. Do you think AI is playing a role in accelerating podcast adoption?
I think it's dumping a lot of content that a lot of people are
Mm.
not happy with.
Right.
So this generated articles or fictional even content, or maybe daily news that are assessments of AI.
Yeah.
Through AI and powered by AI. A lot of people are not happy with it,
Right.
but depends on your need, right? Depends on what IP you're building. What is it for? You
Right.
as a independent creator, if you're building it as podcasting as part of your marketing plan, it's not gonna hurt you. Use AI for your production, your post production. Use it um, in so many different ways. Let it help you and accelerate your production
Right.
process or your
Right.
pre-production process.
What do you envision is the next big thing for podcasting in MENA, or what is the next phase? Let's say.
It's a good one. I don't know why, but I've been seeing more, and I feel like we're gonna be going to faceless podcasting, and kind of like AI avatars. And
Right.
AI avatars is gonna take over social media. It's gonna take over content,
And
and
it's gonna take over podcasts.
and that's what I feel it's gonna take over. I think privacy is gonna hit us really hard, where we're gonna protect our privacy, and whether it's our voice or whether it's our face, and with the digital security and cybersecurity, I just generally feel that's where we're heading. Could be in another 10 years, could be another 50 years. I don't know how fast
Yeah.
this is coming, but I don't know why I feel like this is where we're going.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. So basically, launching and publishing a podcast using an AI voice without having to be the host, without having to worry about the speaking, the talking, asking the questions, or the articulation, or anything of the sorts. Um, that's great. I think I've seen an episode for Luca interview an AI, right?
He
Which
did.
was which was interesting to see. What is your advice for podcasters starting out today? Check out Podheros.
That's a good question. There's so much for them to start. Obviously, have a proper strategy. Figure out why you're starting a podcast,
Yeah.
and don't dump all the ideas at once, and price your time.
Mm-hmm.
People forget that. So you as a host, what's your fee as well, so that when you're building, let's say, that deck and assessing that ROI, know what you're building, because it takes 26 hours to build one episode.
Right. Right.
People forget that.
Yeah.
This is the pre-alignment call, the research of the guests, the sitting down, recording, the post-production edits, all of that, it takes time. So value that time, give yourself and dedicate a proper schedule. Um, and if you're here in the region, go in Arabic and find your niche.
Nice.
Yeah.
And to wrap it up, how can the listeners listening in or the viewers watching this connect with you and your programs?
So, they could go on Podheros and check us out, book us some consultations, reach out over LinkedIn. It's Lama Masri Osman. I'll add the links as well there. But yeah, I'll be opening a new agency as well, and that was that kind of reflection as well, is when I've realized I'm the one that's getting most bookings.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
you know what, maybe I should just have my own thing.
Yeah, yeah, you
So
should. You
yeah,
should. I'll be rooting for you.
thank you.
And I hope to host you again soon so you can tell us a little bit more about your latest work in the space.
Yeah.
Uh,
I should bring you to New York. And
maybe
then,
you
yeah.
should. Maybe you
You
should.
should come and
Maybe
we
you
record
should.
an episode there.
Maybe you should. Maybe I need to become the podcast king first.
Yes. Come on. You are the marketing king. We know that.
By that time, you'll be the podcast empress. Not
Oh, I'm good with Queen. I'm good with Queen.
You're good with Queen?
I don't want to get to my
All
head.
right.
It's already
Fine.
too big.
Fine. Fine. Lama Masri, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure. Lots to action, at least for me today.
Yeah.
I learned a bunch, and everyone listening in, make sure that you reach out to Lama if you have any questions. Thank you so much, Lama.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Take care, guys.